Rome, a name synonymous with power, grandeur, and enduring legacy. For centuries, this city on the Tiber River has captivated the imagination of the world, its ancient ruins whispering tales of emperors and gladiators, of triumphs and tragedies. The Roman Empire, a civilization that once spanned vast continents, left an indelible mark on the course of Western civilization. Its laws, language, architecture, and culture continue to shape our world today. The story of Rome is a tapestry woven from threads of ambition, conquest, innovation, and ultimately decline. It is a story of remarkable individuals who rose to seize power and shape destiny. Julius Caesar, Augustus, Nero, Constantine, names etched into the annals of history. But it is also a story of the countless individuals who lived and loved, struggled and perished within the empire's embrace. In the heart of the Italian peninsula, nestled amidst rolling hills, the city of Rome rose from humble origins. It began as a small settlement, a collection of villages clinging to the banks of the Tiber River. Yet, from these unassuming beginnings, a power emerged that would forever alter the course of history. Driven by an insatiable ambition and a unique blend of military prowess, political cunning, and cultural adaptability, Rome embarked on a journey of expansion that would see it transform from a small city-state into a vast empire. This is the story of that journey, the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. It is a story of grandeur and decline, of innovation and destruction, of the enduring power of human ambition and the inevitable ebb and flow of empires. Join us now as we embark on a cinematic odyssey through time, exploring the dramatic rise and fall of one of history's most influential civilizations. The origins of Rome are shrouded in myth and legend. One popular legend tells the tale of Romulus and Remus, twin brothers left to die on the banks of the Tiber River. Rescued by a she-wolf who nursed them to health, the twins grew strong and eventually founded a city on the very spot where they had been abandoned. Romulus, destined to become the city's namesake, killed Remus in a dispute, cementing his place as the legendary founder of Rome. While the story of Romulus and Remus may be more myth than historical fact, it speaks to the powerful narratives that have shaped our understanding of Rome's origins. The image of the she-wolf, a symbol of fierce maternal protection and untamed wilderness, became an enduring emblem of the Roman spirit, tenacious, resourceful, and ultimately triumphant. Archaeological evidence suggests that the area around Rome was inhabited as early as the 10th century BCE. Over time, small settlements coalesced, eventually giving rise to a more organized community. The early Romans were a practical people, skilled farmers and warriors who valued strength, discipline, and loyalty. They developed a system of government and social organization that emphasized civic duty and collective responsibility. These early Romans, though not yet masters of a vast empire, possessed a resilience and an indomitable spirit that would lay the foundation for their future dominance. They were a people accustomed to hardship, to defending their land and their way of life. Little did they know that their city on the Tiber would one day become the heart of a sprawling empire, its influence reaching far beyond the confines of the Italian peninsula. The early Roman state was a kingdom ruled by a succession of kings. These early kings, both legendary and historical figures, played a crucial role in shaping the city's destiny. They established Rome's first institutions of government, constructed its earliest temples and public buildings, and led the city in its initial struggles for survival against neighboring rivals. However, Roman society, even in its infancy, possessed a strong sense of independence and a deep suspicion of absolute power. This inherent distrust of monarchy would eventually lead to a profound transformation in Rome's political landscape. In the 6th century BCE, a popular uprising overthrew the last Etruscan king, Tarquin the Proud, marking a turning point in Roman history. The expulsion of the kings ushered in a new era for Rome, the Roman Republic. Determined to avoid the pitfalls of monarchy, the Romans established a new system of government based on shared power, civic responsibility, and the rule of law. Central to this new republic was the Senate, an assembly of elder statesmen who wielded considerable influence over matters of state. The transition from kingdom to republic was a defining moment in Roman history. It marked the emergence of a new political order, one that emphasized collective governance and the rights of citizens. The Roman Republic, forged in the fires of revolution, would become a model of governance for centuries to come. Its influence felt far beyond the borders of the Roman world. The early years of the Roman Republic were a time of both internal consolidation and external expansion. The Romans, fiercely independent and driven by a deep sense of destiny, clashed with neighboring tribes and city-states in their quest for security and dominance. Through a combination of military prowess, strategic alliances, and a remarkable ability to assimilate conquered peoples, Rome gradually extended its influence throughout the Italian peninsula. The Roman army, renowned for its discipline, organization, and effectiveness, played a pivotal role in the Republic's rise to power. Roman legions, composed of citizen soldiers, were rigorously trained and instilled with a deep sense of loyalty to the Republic. They fought with a ferocity and determination that became legendary, striking fear into the hearts of their enemies. As Rome's power grew, so too did its reputation for both military might and administrative efficiency. Conquered peoples, while initially resistant to Roman rule, often came to appreciate the stability and prosperity that Roman dominion brought. The Romans, pragmatic in their approach to conquest, often allowed conquered peoples to maintain their own customs and traditions, fostering a sense of integration and loyalty within their expanding domain. The Roman Republic, forged in the crucible of war and expansion, was on the cusp of greatness. Its citizens, emboldened by victory and driven by an unwavering belief in their own destiny, were poised to leave their mark on the world. But this period of unprecedented growth and prosperity also sowed the seeds of future turmoil and division, setting the stage for a dramatic power struggle that would transform Rome once more. As the Roman Republic entered the final century before the Common Era, a shadow began to fall across its triumphs. The very success that had brought wealth and power to Rome now threatened to unravel the fabric of the Republic. The relentless cycle of conquest and expansion had created deep divisions within Roman society. While the spoils of war enriched the aristocracy, the common people increasingly faced poverty, landlessness, and a sense of disenfranchisement. The traditional Roman virtues of civic duty, simplicity, and self-sacrifice, once the bedrock of the Republic, seemed to be fading in the face of unchecked ambition and greed. The growing disparity between the rich and the poor, coupled with a sense of political alienation among the masses, created a volatile atmosphere ripe for exploitation. Ambitious generals, their legions, battle-hardened and fiercely loyal, recognized the opportunity to advance their own interests amidst the growing unrest. They leveraged their military victories and the support of their troops to exert influence over the political process, eroding the traditional authority of the Senate and the rule of law. The once stable political landscape of the Roman Republic was now a battleground for competing factions, each vying for control of the levers of power. The stage was set for a period of intense rivalry, intrigue, and bloodshed that would determine the fate of Rome itself. From the maelstrom of the late Republic emerged a figure destined to leave an indelible mark on history: Gaius Julius Caesar. A brilliant military strategist, a shrewd politician, and a master of propaganda, Caesar possessed a potent combination of charisma, ambition, and ruthlessness that would propel him to the forefront of Roman politics. Caesar's early career was marked by both triumphs and setbacks as he navigated the treacherous currents of Roman politics. He distinguished himself as a military commander, securing victories in Gaul that expanded Roman territory and filled the state coffers with plunder. He chronicled his conquests in his commentaries on the Gallic War, a masterpiece of political self-promotion that showcased both his military genius and his literary skill. As Caesar's power and influence grew, so too did the suspicion and envy of his rivals. The traditional Roman elite, threatened by his popularity with the masses and his disregard for established norms, viewed him as a dangerous demagogue, a threat to the very foundations of the Republic. Caesar's alliance with the powerful general Pompey and the wealthy Crassus, known as the First Triumvirate, further consolidated his power, but also sowed the seeds of future conflict. This uneasy alliance of ambitious men, each seeking to outmaneuver the other, proved to be a temporary arrangement, destined to collapse under the weight of its own contradictions. The year 49 BCE marked a turning point in Roman history. With his Gallic campaigns concluded and his legions loyal, Caesar faced a fateful decision. The Senate, dominated by his opponents and fearful of his growing power, ordered him to disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen. To comply would mean risking prosecution and the loss of everything he had achieved. Caesar chose defiance. Gathering his legions, he crossed the Rubicon River, the symbolic boundary between Gaul and Italy, an act of open rebellion against the Roman Senate. The die is cast, he is said to have declared, signaling the beginning of a civil war that would determine the fate of the Republic. The Roman world was plunged into a bloody conflict that pitted Caesar's legions against those loyal to the Senate, led by his former ally, Pompey. The ensuing civil war raged across the Mediterranean, a clash of titans that tore at the heart of the Roman world. Caesar's military genius and the discipline of his legions ultimately prevailed. Pompey was defeated and assassinated in Egypt, leaving Caesar the undisputed master of Rome. He returned to the capital in triumph, hailed by the masses as a conquering hero, the savior of the Republic. But the Republic he had saved was forever changed. Section 4. The Fall of the Republic. Caesar's victory in the Civil War ushered in a new era for Rome, one in which the old institutions of the Republic, already weakened by decades of internal strife, would be further eroded. Caesar, though proclaiming his commitment to preserving the Republic, assumed unprecedented powers, becoming in all but name a monarch. He implemented a series of reforms aimed at consolidating his power and addressing the deep-seated problems that had plagued the Republic. He granted Roman citizenship to conquered peoples, expanded the Senate to include his supporters, and launched ambitious public works projects to appease the masses. However, Caesar's growing power and his disregard for traditional republican norms aroused the resentment of many within the Roman elite. They saw in his actions a betrayal of the very principles upon which the Republic had been founded, a dangerous slide towards tyranny. A conspiracy was hatched to eliminate the man they viewed as a threat to their liberty and the future of Rome. On the Ide of March, March 15th, 44 BCE, Julius Caesar entered the Roman Senate, unaware of the plot against his life. As he addressed the senators, a group of conspirators led by Brutus and Cassius surrounded him, their daggers drawn. Caesar, the man who had conquered Gaul and bested his rivals, fell victim to an assassin's blade, his blood staining the marble floor of the Senate chamber. The assassination of Julius Caesar sent shockwaves through the Roman world. It marked the end of an era, the final death throes of the Roman Republic. The ideals of civic duty, shared power, and the rule of law, the very principles upon which Rome had been founded, lay shattered amidst the bloodstains on the Senate floor. The question now was, what would rise from the ashes of the Republic? Caesar's assassination plunged Rome into a new period of turmoil. The Republic, already on the brink, teetered on the edge of chaos. Out of the ashes of civil war, a new power emerged. Gaius Octavius, Caesar's great-nephew and adopted heir, stepped onto the stage of history. He was just 18 years old, thrust into a world of intrigue and violence, yet he possessed a cunning intellect and a steely resolve that belied his years. Octavian, later known as Augustus, proved to be a master strategist. He skillfully navigated the treacherous currents of Roman politics, forging alliances, outmaneuvering rivals, and consolidating his power base. His victory over Mark Antony and Cleopatra at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE marked a turning point. The old Roman world, with its triumvirates and civil wars, was coming to an end. Augustus, recognizing the mistakes of the past, chose a different path. He eschewed the title of king or dictator, titles that had proved fatal for his adoptive father. Instead, he styled himself as princeps, first citizen, a title that suggested leadership without overt monarchy. He was laying the foundation for a new political order, one that would come to be known as the Roman Empire. The rise of Augustus marked a profound transformation in Roman history. The Republic, with its ideals of shared power and civic duty, gave way to a more centralized and autocratic system of governance. Yet Augustus was a shrewd ruler. He understood that brute force alone could not hold such a vast and diverse empire together. He sought to legitimize his rule through a carefully crafted image as a bringer of peace, stability, and prosperity. Under Augustus's rule, Rome entered a period of unprecedented peace and prosperity known as Pax Romana, the Roman peace. For 2 centuries, the empire experienced relative stability, its borders secure, its economy flourishing, its citizens enjoying a standard of living unmatched in the ancient world. Augustus, a shrewd administrator, implemented a series of reforms that strengthened the empire's infrastructure, ensured the efficient collection of taxes, and fostered a sense of unity across its vast territory. He established a professional standing army, reorganized the Roman provinces, and implemented a vast building program that transformed the city of Rome itself. The Pax Romana was not simply a time of peace and prosperity. It was also a golden age of Roman culture. Literature, art, architecture, and philosophy flourished under Augustus's patronage and the empire's newfound stability. Writers like Virgil and Ovid penned epic poems that celebrated Roman virtues and legitimized Augustus's rule. Architects and engineers constructed magnificent buildings, aqueducts, and roads that showcased Roman ingenuity and engineering prowess. The reign of Augustus and the era of Pax Romana that followed marked a high point in Roman history. Rome was at the zenith of its power, its influence stretching from the Atlantic Ocean to the Euphrates River, its culture admired and imitated throughout the known world. The Roman Empire, once a fledgling city-state on the Tiber River, had become the dominant force in the Mediterranean, its legacy seemingly assured. The Pax Romana did not signify an end to Roman expansion. The empire's borders continued to expand under Augustus's successors, driven by a combination of strategic considerations, economic ambition, and the sheer momentum of conquest. Emperors like Claudius, Trajan, and Hadrian led Roman legions to new victories, extending Roman rule into Britain, Dacia, modern-day Romania, and parts of Mesopotamia. The Roman army, a formidable fighting force, played a pivotal role in these conquests. Roman legionaries, renowned for their discipline, training, and engineering skills, overcame formidable obstacles from the rugged terrain of Britannia to the fierce resistance of Dacian warriors. They constructed roads, bridges, and fortifications that facilitated Roman expansion and consolidated their hold on conquered territories. The expansion of the empire brought both challenges and rewards. The influx of wealth from conquered lands enriched the Roman elite and funded ambitious building programs in Rome and other major cities. New provinces were integrated into the empire's administrative structure, extending Roman law, infrastructure, and culture to distant corners of the Mediterranean world. However, the empire's ever-expanding frontiers also created new vulnerabilities. Maintaining control over such a vast and diverse territory required a massive military presence and a constant vigilance against internal unrest and external threats. The Roman Empire, for all its power and grandeur, was a complex and delicate organism, its continued existence dependent on a precarious balance of military might, political acumen, and the loyalty, however reluctant, of its diverse subjects. The vast wealth and power concentrated in Rome's imperial capital came at a cost. While the Pax Romana brought peace and prosperity to many within the empire's borders, it also exacerbated existing social and economic divisions. The Roman elite, enriched by the spoils of conquest and the labor of slaves, lived lives of extravagant luxury, their villas adorned with lavish mosaics, their tables laden with exotic delicacies. Meanwhile, the urban poor, many of them dependent on the state for grain handouts, faced overcrowded living conditions, disease, and the ever-present threat of unemployment. The gap between rich and poor, citizen and slave, grew wider, creating a simmering undercurrent of resentment and instability beneath the empire's seemingly impervious facade. The institution of slavery, deeply embedded in the Roman economy and social structure, further fueled this sense of inequality and injustice. Millions of slaves, acquired through conquest and trade, toiled in the fields, mines and households of the Roman elite, their labor, the foundation of the empire's wealth. The brutality and dehumanization inherent in the system of slavery stood in stark contrast to the ideals of justice and civic virtue that Romans often espoused. The Roman state, aware of the potential for unrest, relied on a combination of bread and circuses to placate the masses. Free grain handouts and lavish gladiatorial games provided a temporary distraction from the realities of poverty and oppression. The Colosseum, a monument to both Roman architectural genius and the public's thirst for spectacle, became a symbol of the empire's ability to entertain and control its populace. As the 2nd century CE drew to a close, cracks began to appear in the seemingly unassailable edifice of the Roman Empire. The Pax Romana, which had brought 2 centuries of unprecedented peace and prosperity, was coming to an end. A confluence of internal and external pressures threatened to unravel the empire from within and without. On the frontiers, the Roman army, once invincible, faced increasing pressure from barbarian tribes seeking land, plunder, and a way into the empire's seemingly inexhaustible wealth. The Germanic tribes, long a presence on the empire's northern borders, grew bolder in their raids, sensing weakness in the Roman legions. Within the empire, a series of crises tested the limits of Roman resilience. Epidemics swept through the empire, decimating the population and disrupting trade. Economic instability, fueled by inflation and the costs of maintaining a vast military establishment, led to unrest and rebellion. The empire's emperors, once revered as godlike figures, now faced challenges to their authority from ambitious generals and disgruntled provincials. The Roman Empire, once a beacon of stability and prosperity, entered a period of uncertainty and turmoil. The seeds of discontent sown during the Pax Romana began to sprout, threatening to undermine the very foundations of Roman power. The empire, facing challenges both within and without, stood at a crossroads, its future far from certain. Dawn breaks over the bustling metropolis of Rome, the rising sun casting a golden glow upon the marble facades of its grand temples and public buildings. The city awakens, its streets coming alive with a cacophony of sound, the clatter of carts, the shouts of vendors hawking their wares, the laughter of children playing in the narrow alleyways. For the millions who called Rome home, life was a tapestry woven from threads of vibrant diversity, a blend of grandeur and squalor, opportunity and hardship. In the wealthy districts, such as the Palatine Hill, the day begins at a more leisurely pace. Within the opulent villas of Rome's elite, slaves tend to their masters' every need, preparing elaborate baths, assisting with dressing, and serving sumptuous breakfasts. Senators and wealthy merchants prepare for a day of political maneuvering in the Forum, their togas carefully draped, their every step a reminder of their status and authority. Meanwhile, in the crowded working-class neighborhoods across the city, life unfolds with a more frenetic energy. Shopkeepers open their stalls displaying a dizzying array of goods. Spices from the east, silks from China, pottery from Gaul, blacksmiths hammer out tools and weapons, their forges filling the air with a metallic tang. The streets teem with a cross-section of Roman society, citizens, freedmen, slaves, foreigners, all drawn to the city's promise of opportunity, however elusive it might be. For the poorest of Rome's inhabitants, life is a constant struggle for survival. Many dwell in cramped, squalid insulae, multi-story apartment blocks prone to fires and collapses. They rely on the state's grain dole to stave off hunger, their days consumed by the search for work and the basic necessities of life. Yet even amidst the poverty and hardship, there is a vibrant energy, a resilience that speaks to the indomitable spirit of the Roman people. Rome, the nerve center of a vast empire, was a city that dazzled the senses. Its streets, paved with stone, were lined with architectural marvels that testified to the empire's wealth and engineering prowess. The Forum, the heart of Roman political and religious life, bustled with activity. Senators engaged in heated debates, merchants striking deals, citizens gathering to hear the latest news from the empire's far-flung corners. Towering above the city, the Colosseum stood as a symbol of Rome's power and its insatiable appetite for spectacle. Within its massive walls, gladiators battled to the death. Wild animals were pitted against armed men, and elaborate naval battles were staged, all for the entertainment of the masses. The Colosseum, a monument to both Roman engineering and the public's thirst for blood, embodied the contradictions at the heart of the empire. But Rome's splendor was not limited to its grand public spaces. The city boasted an impressive network of aqueducts that brought fresh water from miles away, supplying its public baths, fountains, and private residences. The baths, more than just places to cleanse the body, served as social hubs where Romans of all classes gathered to relax, gossip, and engage in intellectual discourse. Roman art and culture, influenced by conquered peoples but distinctly Roman in their grandeur and ambition, flourished during this period. Sculptors crafted lifelike statues of emperors and gods, their marble forms imbued with a sense of power and majesty. Painters adorned the walls of villas and public buildings with vibrant frescoes depicting scenes from mythology, nature, and daily life. Theatres hosted performances of comedies and tragedies, providing entertainment and intellectual stimulation to Roman audiences. The Roman state, acutely aware of the social and economic tensions simmering beneath the surface of its glittering capital, employed a potent combination of bread and circuses to maintain order and placate the masses. The grain dole, a system of free grain distribution to Rome's poorest citizens, ensured a basic level of subsistence, preventing widespread famine and social unrest. But it was the circuses, the grand spectacles staged in the Colosseum and other venues across the city, that truly captivated the Roman imagination. Gladiatorial combat, a brutal form of entertainment with roots in Etruscan funerary rites, became a national obsession. Gladiators, most of them slaves or prisoners of war, fought with a ferocity and skill that earned them both the adulation of the crowds and a slim chance of winning their freedom. The games were not limited to gladiatorial combat. Wild animal hunts, known as venationes, pitted exotic beasts from across the empire, lions, tigers, elephants, against armed men, often condemned criminals or prisoners of war. These spectacles, a gruesome display of Roman power over the natural world, thrilled and terrified audiences in equal measure. The Roman state, in providing these lavish spectacles, understood their power to distract the masses from their daily struggles, to foster a sense of unity and shared identity, and to reinforce the image of the emperor as a benevolent provider. The roar of the crowd in the Colosseum, the cheers that greeted a victorious gladiator, the gasps of horror and awe at the sight of a slain lion, these were the sounds of a society being skillfully manipulated, its anxieties soothed, its attention diverted from the growing cracks in the empire's foundations. Behind the facade of grandeur and spectacle, a darker reality cast long shadows over the Roman world. The empire's prosperity came at a steep price, one paid for in the sweat and blood of millions who toiled within its vast and complex economic machine. Slavery, an institution deeply ingrained in Roman society, fueled the empire's growth, but also represented a profound moral failing. Slaves acquired through conquest, trade, or birth formed the backbone of the Roman economy. They worked the fields, labored in mines, served in households, and even performed specialized tasks such as tutoring or accounting. Their lives were ones of hardship, subject to the whims of their masters, their only hope for a better existence dependent on the possibility of manumission, a rare occurrence often granted for loyalty or service. The institution of slavery, while economically advantageous for the Roman elite, created a rigid social hierarchy and fostered a culture of brutality and exploitation. Slave revolts, though often brutally suppressed, served as a stark reminder of the human cost of Roman dominance, a simmering ember of resistance that threatened to ignite into a conflagration. Beyond the plight of slaves, the Roman Empire faced a growing problem with corruption and moral decay within its own ranks. The pursuit of wealth and power, once tempered by ideals of civic duty and republican virtue, became increasingly unmoored from ethical constraints. Governors appointed to rule distant provinces often exploited their positions for personal gain, enriching themselves at the expense of those they were meant to serve. The Roman Empire, at the height of its power, stood as a testament to human ambition and ingenuity. Its legions had conquered vast territories, its engineers had constructed architectural marvels, its artists and thinkers had pushed the boundaries of human creativity. Yet beneath the veneer of invincibility, the empire bore the weight of its own contradictions. The very factors that had propelled Rome's rise, its military prowess, its centralized governance, its insatiable appetite for expansion, also contained the seeds of its eventual decline. The empire's vast size, once a source of strength, became increasingly difficult to manage, its borders vulnerable to barbarian incursions, its provinces ripe for rebellion. The Roman character, once defined by discipline, frugality, and a strong sense of civic duty, seemed to be eroding from within. The allure of wealth and luxury, the corrosive influence of power, and the constant influx of foreign customs and beliefs gradually chipped away at the traditional Roman values that had underpinned the empire's success. The Roman Empire, for all its achievements, was not immune to the forces of history. Like all empires before it, and all that would follow, it carried within itself the seeds of its own destruction. The question was not if Rome would fall, but when and how. The stage was set for a dramatic final act, one in which the empire's internal weaknesses and external threats would converge, ultimately leading to a collapse that would reverberate through history. By the 3rd century CE, the Roman Empire, once a monolith of power, found itself teetering on the precipice of chaos. The Pax Romana, that era of unparalleled peace and prosperity, had faded into a distant memory. The empire, stretched thin by overexpansion and beset by internal strife, faced a growing multitude of threats, both within and beyond its borders. The once invincible legions, strained by constant warfare and plagued by dwindling recruitment, found themselves hard-pressed to contain the growing pressure on the empire's frontiers. Germanic tribes, driven by a combination of population pressure, ambition, and the lure of Roman wealth, launched increasingly bold raids into Roman territory. The Rhine and Danube rivers, once formidable barriers, were now porous membranes, breached with increasing regularity by those seeking to carve their own fortunes from the remnants of Roman power. Internal strife further weakened the empire's ability to respond to these external threats. A series of emperors, often lacking legitimacy and facing challenges from rivals, rose and fell in quick succession, their reigns marked by intrigue, assassination, and civil war. The political instability at the heart of the empire, coupled with rampant inflation and economic uncertainty, eroded the loyalty of its citizens and emboldened those who sought to exploit the empire's growing weakness. In a desperate attempt to salvage the situation, Emperor Diocletian, a capable soldier who had risen through the ranks, implemented a radical solution in 285 CE. He divided the empire into two halves. The Western Roman Empire ruled from Rome, and the Eastern Roman Empire ruled from Byzantium, later renamed Constantinople. Diocletian's intent was to improve administrative efficiency and strengthen the empire's defences, but the division proved to be a double-edged sword. While it provided a temporary respite from the immediate crises, it also sowed the seeds for further division and ultimately the fall of the Western Roman Empire. The division of the empire did little to stem the tide of barbarian migration and incursion. In fact, it arguably exacerbated the situation as the empire's divided leadership struggled to present a united front against these external threats. The Germanic tribes, sensing the empire's vulnerability, grew bolder in their demands, seeking not just plunder but land and a place within the empire's structure. The Visigoths, a Germanic people displaced from their traditional lands by the Huns, a nomadic warrior culture from the east, presented a particularly formidable challenge. Led by Alaric, a cunning and ambitious chieftain, The Visigoths crossed the Danube River into Roman territory, their numbers swelled by other disaffected groups seeking refuge or opportunity within the empire's borders. Alaric's Visigoths, initially seeking recognition as allies and land to settle, were met with Roman indecision and occasional treachery. Their frustrations grew, as did their resentment of Roman power and wealth. In 410 CE, Alaric's Visigoths, their demands for land and recognition unmet, reached the unthinkable. They breached the walls of Rome itself. For centuries, the city of Rome had been considered impregnable, the heart of a vast empire, a symbol of Roman power and invincibility. The sack of Rome by the Visigoths, though relatively restrained in its violence, sent shockwaves throughout the empire. It was a symbolic blow, a stark reminder that even the mightiest of empires could fall. The sack of Rome in 410 CE marked a turning point in the history of the Western Roman Empire. It shattered the illusion of Roman invincibility, emboldening other barbarian groups to test the empire's defenses and seek their own fortunes within its crumbling borders. The Western Roman Empire, weakened by internal strife and overwhelmed by external pressures, was now in a state of terminal decline. The sack of Rome in 410 CE by the Visigoths, while a seismic event, did not immediately spell the end of the Western Roman Empire. The city, though plundered and humiliated, endured. However, the event cast a long shadow, a harbinger of the empire's ultimate fate. The empire, weakened and fractured, struggled to maintain its grip on its vast territory. The 5th century CE witnessed a steady erosion of Roman authority in the West. Barbarian groups, emboldened by the Visigoth success, carved out their own kingdoms within the empire's borders. The Vandals, a Germanic people known for their ruthlessness, swept through Gaul and across the Strait of Gibraltar, establishing a kingdom in North Africa. From their stronghold in Carthage, they launched a daring raid on Rome in 455 CE. Unlike the Visigoth sack, the Vandal sack of Rome was a brutal affair. For 2 weeks, the Vandals pillaged the city, stripping it of its wealth and leaving behind a trail of destruction. Temples were desecrated, palaces looted, and countless citizens killed or enslaved. The sack of Rome by the Vandals further cemented the image of Roman vulnerability, a once mighty empire now seemingly helpless to defend its own heart. The Western Roman Empire, now a shadow of its former self, clung precariously to its remaining territory. Its emperors, often mere figureheads controlled by powerful generals of barbarian origin, lacked the authority and resources to reverse the empire's decline. The Roman Senate, once a symbol of Roman power and authority, was reduced to a collection of powerless aristocrats, their debates irrelevant, their pronouncements ignored. The year 476 CE marked a pivotal moment in history, often cited as the definitive fall of the Western Roman Empire. Odoacer, a Germanic general in Roman service, deposed the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, a mere teenager who had been placed on the throne by his father, a powerful general. Odoacer, rather than claiming the imperial title for himself, sent the imperial regalia to Constantinople, the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, effectively signifying the end of the Western Roman Empire. The deposition of Romulus Augustulus, while a symbolic event, was more of a formality than a revolutionary act. The Western Roman Empire, by this point, had been reduced to a patchwork of squabbling kingdoms ruled by various Germanic peoples. The Roman administrative structure had collapsed, its armies dispersed, its central authority replaced by a multitude of local rulers. The fall of the Western Roman Empire was not a sudden cataclysm, but rather a long, drawn-out process of decline and disintegration. Centuries of over-expansion, internal strife, economic instability, and barbarian pressure had gradually eroded the foundations of Roman power in the West. The deposition of Romulus Augustulus simply formalized what had already become an undeniable reality. While the Western Roman Empire ceased to exist as a political entity, its legacy lived on. Roman law, language, architecture, and culture continued to influence the development of Western civilization for centuries to come. The fall of the Western Roman Empire, while a pivotal event in history, was not the end of Roman civilization, but rather a transformation, a transition to a new era in which Roman influence would continue to shape the course of Western history. The fall of the Western Roman Empire was not simply a change of rulers. It was a seismic shift in the very fabric of Western civilization. The once unified Roman world, bound together by law, language, and infrastructure, fractured into a mosaic of independent kingdoms, each vying for power and influence in the vacuum left by Rome's demise. The 5th century CE marked the beginning of a period historians often refer to as the Dark Ages, a term that, while contested, reflects the sense of upheaval and disruption that characterized this era. With the collapse of Roman authority, trade networks disrupted, and cities in decline, much of Western Europe experienced a period of economic contraction and cultural fragmentation. Yet amidst the ruins of the old order, the seeds of new societies were being sown. Germanic tribes, once considered barbarians at the gates, now found themselves the inheritors of Roman lands and, to varying degrees, Roman traditions. The Visigoths in Spain, the Franks in Gaul, the Ostrogoths in Italy. These and other Germanic groups began the long process of forging new identities, blending their own traditions with those of the Roman populations they now ruled. The fall of the Western Roman Empire also had profound implications for the Christian Church. Once a persecuted sect within the Roman Empire, Christianity had, by the 4th century CE, become the empire's official religion. With the collapse of Roman authority in the West, the Church, with its hierarchical structure and its message of spiritual unity, emerged as a beacon of stability and continuity in a world seemingly on the brink. From the ashes of the Western Roman Empire arose a patchwork of new kingdoms, each shaped by its own unique circumstances and the ambitions of its rulers. The Franks, under the Merovingian dynasty, established a powerful kingdom in Gaul, laying the foundation for what would become France. Clovis I, a ruthless but astute ruler, embraced Christianity, a strategic move that secured the support of the Church and helped to unify his kingdom. In Italy, the Ostrogoths, under their king Theodoric the Great, sought to establish a kingdom that would preserve Roman institutions and culture. Theodoric, a man of considerable learning and administrative ability, maintained a facade of Roman governance, even as he consolidated his own power. However, the Ostrogothic kingdom in Italy proved to be short-lived, eventually falling to the armies of the Eastern Roman Empire in the 6th century CE. The Iberian Peninsula, once a Roman province, was divided between the Visigoths, who had established their capital at Toledo, and the Suebi, another Germanic group in the northwest. The Visigoths, initially Arian Christians, eventually converted to Catholicism, a move that further integrated them into the fabric of former Roman society. Their kingdom, known for its distinctive blend of Roman and Germanic influences, would endure for centuries, only to be conquered by the Umayyad Caliphate in the 8th century CE. These new kingdoms, though often at odds with one another, shared a common heritage rooted in both their Germanic origins and their interactions with Roman civilization. They adopted Roman laws and administrative practices, preserved Roman architectural styles, and even continued to use a debased form of Latin as a common language. The fall of the Western Roman Empire did not erase Roman influence from the map of Europe. Rather, it ushered in a new era, one in which Roman traditions were adapted, reinterpreted, and ultimately woven into the fabric of new and distinct societies. Even as new kingdoms rose and fell, the memory and legacy of Rome continued to exert a powerful influence on the imagination of Western Europe. The ruins of Roman cities, once bustling centers of commerce and culture, now stood as silent but potent reminders of a lost grandeur. The Colosseum, the Pantheon, the aqueducts, these and other impressive structures testified to the ingenuity and power of a bygone era, inspiring awe and wonder in those who beheld them. The Church, which had played a pivotal role in preserving literacy and learning in the aftermath of the Western Roman Empire's collapse, became a repository of Roman knowledge and traditions. Monasteries, scattered across the former empire, housed libraries that preserved ancient texts, including the works of Roman philosophers, historians, and poets. Monks trained in Latin and steeped in the classics kept alive the flame of Roman learning, ensuring that the knowledge of the ancients was not entirely extinguished. The Carolingian Renaissance, a period of intellectual and cultural revival that flourished under the patronage of Charlemagne, king of the Franks in the 8th and 9th centuries CE, drew heavily on Roman models. Charlemagne, seeking to legitimize his rule and unify his vast kingdom, consciously modeled himself after Roman emperors, adopting Roman titles, promoting education and literacy, and even attempting to revive Roman architectural styles. The Carolingian Renaissance, though short-lived, represented a conscious attempt to reclaim and revive aspects of Roman culture, demonstrating the enduring influence of the Roman past. The echoes of Rome reverberated not only in the realm of culture and intellect, but also in the political sphere. The Holy Roman Empire, a loose confederation of Germanic states that emerged in the 10th century CE, claimed to be the heir to the legacy of Rome, its emperors seeking to legitimize their rule by invoking the memory of Roman power and authority. The Holy Roman Empire, though far from a centralized and powerful entity like its Roman namesake, nonetheless demonstrates the enduring power of the Roman ideal, the notion of a universal empire united under a single ruler that continued to captivate the imagination of medieval Europe. The Roman Empire, though long gone, continues to cast a long shadow over the world today. Its legacy is etched into the very fabric of Western civilization, its influence discernible in our languages, laws, political systems, art, architecture, and even our daily lives. Latin, the language of the Roman Empire, may no longer be spoken as a native tongue, but its influence lives on in the Romance languages, Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Romanian, spoken by millions around the world. Latin words and phrases continue to pepper our vocabulary, and Latin roots form the basis of countless words in English and other languages. Roman law, renowned for its emphasis on justice, equity, and the rule of law, provided a foundation for legal systems throughout Europe and beyond. The concept of codified law, of a system of rules that apply equally to all citizens, has its roots in Roman legal thought. Even today, legal principles derived from Roman law continue to shape our understanding of justice and governance. Roman engineering and architectural achievements continue to inspire awe and admiration. The Colosseum, the Pantheon, the aqueducts. These and other structures stand as testaments to Roman ingenuity, their enduring presence a reminder of the empire's ability to shape the physical world. Roman architectural styles, from the grandeur of the arch to the elegance of the dome, have been imitated and adapted throughout history, influencing the design of countless buildings, from medieval cathedrals to modern government buildings. The Roman Empire, like all human endeavors, was flawed and ultimately ephemeral. Yet its impact on the course of Western civilization is undeniable. Its legacy, both tangible and intangible, continues to shape our world, a testament to the enduring power of ideas, innovation, and the human spirit. The Roman Empire stands as a testament to the paradoxical nature of power itself. It rose to breathtaking heights, its influence shaping the course of Western civilization for centuries. Yet within its triumphs lay the seeds of its inevitable decline. Rome's story is a cautionary tale, reminding us that even the most formidable empires are not immune to the forces of history, that the very strengths that propel a civilization to greatness can, over time, become its undoing. The Roman military, a marvel of organization, discipline, and tactical brilliance, allowed a small city-state on the Tiber River to conquer vast territories and forge a vast empire. Yet the constant need to maintain and expand its legions placed an immense strain on the empire's resources, leading to economic instability and fueling social unrest. The legions, once symbols of Roman might, became increasingly reliant on foreign recruits, their loyalty to Rome often questionable, their ambitions a potential threat to the very empire they were sworn to defend. Roman law and governance, admired for their emphasis on justice, order, and the rule of law, provided a framework for a stable and prosperous society. Roman law, codified and standardized, offered a measure of protection for citizens and fostered a sense of unity across a vast and diverse empire. Yet over time, the centralized nature of Roman governance became a liability. As the empire expanded, its administrative structures struggled to keep pace, leading to corruption, inefficiency, and a growing disconnect between the rulers in Rome and the ruled in the provinces. The Roman Empire's success in integrating conquered peoples into its social and political fabric contributed to its longevity and influence. Rome's willingness to extend citizenship to those it conquered, its policy of allowing a degree of local autonomy, and its embrace of cultural exchange fostered a sense of shared identity and purpose within its vast domain. However, this inclusivity also introduced new challenges: the influx of foreign customs and beliefs, the growing influence of Eastern religions and philosophies, and the constant pressure of migration and assimilation gradually chipped away at the traditional Roman values and social cohesion that had underpinned the empire's early success. The fall of the Roman Empire, a process that unfolded over centuries, offers a sobering reminder of the impermanence of even the grandest human endeavors. It is a story rich with lessons for those who would heed its warnings, for it reminds us that the seeds of decline often lie dormant within the very heart of success. One crucial lesson to be gleaned from Rome's fall is the danger of unchecked ambition and the corrosive influence of power. The Roman Republic, founded on principles of shared power, civic duty, and the rule of law, gradually succumbed to the allure of empire, its institutions undermined by the ambitions of powerful individuals more concerned with personal gain than the common good. The relentless pursuit of conquest, while enriching the Roman elite and expanding the empire's borders, also fueled corruption, exacerbated social inequalities, and ultimately weakened the very foundations of Roman power. Another lesson lies in the importance of adaptability and the need for societies to evolve in the face of changing circumstances. The Roman Empire, despite its many strengths, proved remarkably resistant to change. Its rigid social structures, its conservative political institutions, and its often inflexible approach to governance made it ill-equipped to respond to the challenges of a changing world. The empire clung to outdated models of governance and military organization, even as its enemies adapted, evolved, and grew bolder in their challenges to Roman power. Furthermore, the fall of Rome underscores the critical role that social cohesion and a shared sense of identity play in the longevity of any civilization. The Roman Empire, at its height, encompassed a vast and diverse array of cultures, languages, and religions. While Rome's policy of integration and its emphasis on shared Roman values fostered a degree of unity, the empire's later centuries witnessed a gradual erosion of this social fabric. Economic disparities, political instability, and the influx of foreign peoples and ideas weakened the bonds that held the empire together, making it vulnerable to internal strife and external threats. Despite its ultimate demise, the Roman Empire continues to exert a powerful hold on the human imagination. Its stories of triumph and tragedy, its iconic figures, its architectural marvels, and its enduring legacy in the realms of law, language, and culture have captivated artists, writers, and thinkers for centuries. The allure of Rome lies partly in its sheer scale and ambition. The Roman Empire at its height spanned 3 continents, encompassing a population of millions and leaving an indelible mark on the languages, laws, and customs of Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. The Romans were builders and innovators, their roads, aqueducts, and public buildings testaments to their engineering prowess, their legal codes and administrative structures, models of organization and efficiency. Yet beyond its material achievements, Rome's enduring appeal lies in its human drama. The Roman story is populated by a cast of compelling characters: ambitious generals, cunning politicians, noble senators, ruthless emperors, courageous gladiators, and ordinary men and women caught in the tides of history. Their stories, immortalized in literature, art, and film, continue to resonate with audiences across cultures and time periods, reminding us of the timeless themes of love, loss, ambition, betrayal, and the struggle for power that define the human experience. Moreover, the Roman Empire serves as a mirror to our own times. Its struggles with immigration, economic inequality, political polarization, and the challenges of maintaining a vast and diverse empire resonate with contemporary concerns. By studying Rome's successes and failures, its triumphs and tragedies, we gain valuable insights into the complexities of power, the challenges of governance, and the enduring human search for meaning and order in a world often characterized by chaos and change. The Roman Empire may have crumbled centuries ago, its legions dispersed, its emperors relegated to history books, but its legacy continues to shape our world in profound and often invisible ways. The echoes of Rome reverberate through the halls of government, the chambers of courtrooms, the classrooms where languages are taught, and the very foundations of Western thought and culture. The very languages we speak bear the imprint of Rome's influence. Latin, once the language of law, government, and scholarship throughout the Roman Empire, may no longer be a spoken tongue, but its DNA is woven into the fabric of the Romance languages: Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian, spoken by nearly 1 billion people worldwide. Even English, a Germanic language at its core, owes a significant debt to Latin, its vocabulary enriched by Latin borrowings, its grammatical structures influenced by Latin models. Roman law, renowned for its emphasis on justice, equity, and the rule of law, provided a foundation for legal systems throughout Europe and beyond. The concepts of codified law, due process, and the presumption of innocence, cornerstones of many modern legal systems, have their roots in Roman jurisprudence. The Roman legal tradition, passed down through centuries of scholarship and adaptation, continues to shape our understanding of justice, rights, and the relationship between the individual and the state. Roman art and architecture, with their emphasis on grandeur, symmetry, and enduring beauty, continue to inspire awe and imitation. The Colosseum, the Pantheon, the aqueducts, these and countless other structures stand as testaments to Roman engineering prowess and artistic vision. Roman architectural styles, from the soaring heights of the arch to the elegant curves of the dome, have been adapted and reinterpreted through the centuries, influencing the design of churches, palaces, government buildings, and even modern sports stadiums. The Roman Empire may be long gone, its physical remnants now crumbling ruins, but its legacy lives on, not as a static relic of the past, but as a dynamic force that continues to shape our world. Rome's story, with its triumphs and tragedies, its innovations and failures, its enduring contributions to human civilization, reminds us that even the grandest empires eventually fall, but their ideas, their values, and their impact on the course of history can endure for millennia.